You have everything anyone could ever want. So what is the problem? Those are the words that a former therapist that I paid to hold the most fragile parts of my mind said to me as I was navigating this new season of my life, this new chapter of my life. And this person who was supposed to hold me and support me and be there in a sacred way dropped the ball. And this is the very person who was supposed to keep me alive. And so as you're tuning in live, thank you for your presence. And if you're watching the replay, I'm going to continue this story with you, but I want to make a pause here. If you're watching the replay and you prefer to listen to this on another platform, this replay will be available on YouTube. And if you are tuning in live, thank you so much for your presence. So I'm going to continue because this is really potent what I have to share. I was in a season of navigating so much expansion, hiring a therapist, hiring coaches, looking for support as I was navigating this new life, living in a luxury community in Florida with my beloved, the Mr., my husband, experiencing even more success, experiencing even more expansion, experiencing everything I had ever wanted, all my prayers being manifested, all my prayers being answered. Yet inside of that success and inside of that expansion and inside of that luxury and inside of experiencing everything that I had ever wanted, I felt alone inside of it. And in my search for support was finding a difficult time finding professionals and people who could actually support me through that season. I had a type of life that people were envying and congratulating me on. Yet I felt I was just being watched for like a spectator. That it was like I was a spectacle. And I'd call home, Illinois, where I'm from, seeking support and experienced even more projections. You live in a luxury community. You guys have those pools, those beaches. What's the problem? You got a husband. What's the problem? Your business is growing. What's the problem? You got more success. What's the problem? And that's when I realized I had transitioned and ascended to a different phase of life that most couldn't understand. And all they could do was project the reality that they assumed they would experience inside of it. I don't know about you, but I'm curious if you have ever found yourself having everything everyone else wanted and felt completely alone inside of it. Because that's the conversation we're here to have. Why overachieving women leaders of faith who are in the public eye experience loneliness inside of it. And this is a rare conversation. This is not a conversation for everyone, and I'm not a guide for everyone. Oh, I don't feel that anymore, my dear. Tis why I'm here. And so before we begin deepening this conversation, I'm going to invite you to drop your shoulders, relax your jaw, take a breath, adjust your crown, and find yourself landed into this space, fully present, out of the mind, down into your body temple. I do not want you listening to this from your ego mind. I invite you to come what I call the wise woman role and listen with your wisdom and your maturity and your discernment. And I always like to make a disclaimer before I begin deepening into the concepts. As a listener, you are agreeing to be here to listen and learn. You are agreeing to not come here to extract, to colonize, to take, to copy, to reverse engineer my words and try to regurgitate them and take them and steal them as your own. Because as a woman of the global majority, as a Black biracial woman, that is a reality that I have experienced. And so I'm calling those who come for the work. They're here for self-mastery. They're not here to colonize and take. And so let's begin. The reality is that when you feel alone inside of this, it's because you have not embraced the fact that you are a woman of privilege. You are a woman of privilege. Now, you may have different privileges. You may have pretty privilege. You may have social currency and status. You may have marital status. You may have financial status. You may have different successes that have afforded you the privileges of this modern society and the systems that exist within this modern world. And this is precisely why I say this conversation is not for everyone, because many tend to resent that. They resent those who have privilege. And so I'm here for those who are ready to acknowledge that you have it and to see it as a divine assignment from God. That your privilege is favor from Creator so that you can go out into the world and use that privilege for good. I call this privilege inside of my work the Queen Esther effect. And there is this phenomena that happens when you embody and you are anointed with the Queen Esther effect. This means that you have the ability and the power to influence change from the top down. And because you have that anointing, because you have that embodiment, because Creator has gifted you with that beingness, you have a responsibility with that power that you carry. And Queen Esther modeled that so beautifully. She modeled that in how she advocated for the oppressed. She modeled that in how she advocated for those who had power and influence in the world all the way to the top. And she used her privilege, not just for her own good, but for the good of all, to co-create heaven on earth for the good of all, which is my mission. My mission as a somatic identity architect and as a prophetess is to support you as an overachieving woman leader of faith who is in the public eye, to experience a life, heaven on earth, that doesn't just look good on the outside, but also feels as good as it looks. And this is a rare gift we get to experience. And the responsibility that comes with that is that you get to experience the fruit of that. You get to experience the blessing of that. And you get to use the privilege that Creator has gifted you with to co-create a new reality, not just for yourself, but for the good of all. Now, the flip side of this experience is that you will interface with other humans in the modern world who may resent you for your privileges. They may resent you for the different privileges you have, whether if you have racial privilege, pretty privilege, social currency, financial status, marital status, successes. There are different forms of currency of privilege that you may experience and embody that cause others who feel they don't have that to resent you. And then you find yourself in a power dynamic dance with individuals who are holding on to the old paradigm. And as daughters of the divine, we are called to not be in the world, or we're called to be in the world, not of the world, which means that we are not to engage with others in the way that humans operate. We're to hold our post as pillars of light. We are to hold our supernatural standards. And we are to show up in the world as the supernatural woman inside of our life, love, and leadership that God called us and created us to be, so that we can create those beautiful ripples of impact that will outlive us, not just in our own lives and in our own lineages and for our own legacy, but out in the world. But there's a shadow side to this. And it's a very real shadow side to this. And as I began this live stream, I started to share my own story of navigating the loneliness that comes with that. When you haven't found yourself in the spaces that can actually hold all of you, your power and your privilege, your light and your shadows, and all the aspects of your beingness as a human and a supernatural woman. And we're going to look at this phenomenon of looking at how we can break out of that loneliness, because I've done it and I've supported other powerful souls to do the same. And acknowledging your privileges is one aspect. And the next aspect is to look at where have you been acquiescing your power in your nervous system, and your nervous system is reacting to the present power dynamics at play, because what has been initiated in those interactions is bringing up old dynamics, maybe from your mother, maybe from your lineage, where women in your lineage were not allowed to hold power. Women in your lineage were not allowed to hold privilege. Women in your lineage may have been hated for power and privilege. Women in your lineage may have been exiled for that. And as a first of her kind, and many of the women I work with are the eldest daughter inside of their home, their family. They carry a special anointing to break those patterns off their lineages. And so sometimes the loneliness that you're experiencing is not just through your own lived experience, but it's through your lineage, where your grandmother or your great grandmother or other women in your lineage were not allowed to embody the fullness of who they are. They were not allowed to embody their full power and anointing and light and emanate that out into the world. And instead, they learned coping mechanisms to feel safe. They learned coping mechanisms to try to ward off attacks. They learned coping mechanisms to avoid being coming across as a threat to other people. And those coping mechanisms, through the science of epigenetics and through different spiritual faiths and wisdom traditions, have all said the same narrative, that travels in the bloodline, that travels in the DNA. And so the women in your lineage, where did they learn to suppress their voice? Where did they learn to dim it down just a little bit, even though they can physically appear like they're still showing up a certain way, but something in their nervous system has shifted to the room instead of your presence being the thermostat that changes the temperature of the room. And when your nervous system is still reacting to the past, it will not be long, my dear, until you recreate the past. And so that season of loneliness that I found myself in was because my nervous system was carrying not just my own lived experiences, but an ancestral lineage of it's not safe to shine at full potency, full voltage. It's not safe to have my light fully on, fully vibrant, without threatening others and coming across as a threat. It's not safe to emanate my privilege and my power without others feeling threatened by it. And so through my own sacred journey, I recalibrated my nervous system. to be able to hold the fullness of who I am and my power and my light and my divine authority and my supernatural anointing without acquiescing it, without dimming it, without hiding it, without shutting it down, without going into my own learned and ancestral coping mechanisms to make other people feel comfortable in my presence. To not react to the naysayers and to those projecting assumptions and judgments and opinions that were based on their own unconscious, crippling, fear-based beliefs across their own faulty filter that they were perceiving through. And instead, I stay solid and sovereign in who Creator made me to be. And I show up and I say what I've been given to say. And I show up and I am the thermostat that shifts the temperature in the room. And I show up with my beloved, the Mister, as a proud wife in a world that has been demonizing men and demonizing marriage and demonizing women who love being wives. I show up as a well-kept woman who is well taken care of by my beloved. I show up as a woman with a voice who has graced public platforms such as NPR, different media channels, the front cover of a magazine, on a commercial of a publicly traded company, across multiple platforms. And I don't dim that and I don't hide it. Because I know God gave me a voice to use, to not just impact the people close to me, but to create ripples of impact that outlive me. And the same is true for the women I have been called to serve. When you have a voice that carries weight, when you have a presence that carries weight, when you are the type of woman who has everything that everyone wants, the projections are real and they come. Who are you in the midst of that? Do you get catty and you jab back and get entangled into power games and power struggles with people? Do you shrink and hide and dim your light and play small to make them feel better about being in your presence? Or do you remain solid and sovereign in the knowing of who you are and walk about your life experiences knowing that you get to continue to ascend and evolve and expand and experience everything and more without shame? This world likes to shame ambition women. This world likes to shame driven women. And this world likes to shame women who are also soft and elegant and sophisticated and beautiful and powerful. I stand for the both and in my world. We get to be, do, and have it all unapologetically, without holding back, without apologizing for it, without proving ourselves or convincing others that we're good. When people villainize you, do you try to prove that you're good? Or do you hold yourself and stay solid and sovereign in the knowing of who you are? When people gossip about you and they spread rumors about you and lies about you and they smear your name to try to ruin your reputation because they're jealous and envious of who you are and what you have and what you embody, do you shrink? Do you hide? Do you go under a rock? Do you disappear? Do you play small? Or do you remain solid and sovereign in the knowing of who you are? This is the type of work that I lead the powerful souls who are called and feel resonance with me inside of their womanhood, inside of their relationships, inside of their leadership. The way that you experience heaven on earth, where your life doesn't just look good on the outside, but it feels just as good on the inside. And you're the type of woman who has everything everyone wants and you still want more. And you create that more without striving and stressing and toiling as you embody the way of the supernatural woman. And I'm going to take a moment to share about this journey of the supernatural woman. Because there's three main archetypes that I lead women through: the woman, the lover, and the leader. And when you embody rare privilege, you typically have privilege in all three. as do I. And so there's a rare level of embodiment we hold, and we are required to hold, because with great power comes great responsibility, right, Spider-Man? And so inside of our womanhood, I lead women to deepen their devotion to their faith and to feel closer than ever to God. And I bring in ancient somatic approaches. I call this the OG of energetics and somatic approaches that I learned from real, true Asian masters and have been training under them and with them for years, that do, oh my gosh, miraculous things in your nervous system on a cellular, neurological, biological level, on an identity level. I support women in their lover archetype inside of their marriages and their relationships, where they stop over giving and learn how to receive the love that they so freely give to others. And I support women in their leadership, where they learn how to trust that the provision and the impact and the successes will meet them where they're at. And they don't have to go into the hustle and the chasing and the striving and the pushing and the forcing and going into what I call yin depletion. Yin in ancient Chinese culture means feminine, where their feminine gets depleted. And they're able to experience all of their blessings, all of their co-creations, all of their manifestations and more without dropping the ball and sabotaging it. Because in my world, we don't do cope. I don't help you to cope. I help you to permanently rewire the patterns that cause you to sabotage. And so if you know that being in a space where all of you can be held, all of you can be supported, and you receive the activation, the initiation that your soul knows it needs to continue to show up in your full power, your full magnetism, your full brilliance as a woman, lover, and leader, then I invite you to apply for the Supernatural Woman Inner Circle. This is a 6-month identity upgrade where you will hear God's voice more than ever, so that you are co-creating beautiful realities as a woman, lover, and leader, having a life that looks good on the outside and feels good on the inside, and not doing it alone. Not doing it around people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Not doing it around people who make assumptions about you and who they think you are based off first glance, but doing it around mature, wise, seasoned women of faith. That is the world I'm over here co-creating. And if you're not ready for a 6-month commitment, then I invite you to a 90-minute recalibration intensive with me, where I will support you to experience a supernatural shift in 90 minutes, where you don't need to go through 10 years of talk therapy or 5 years of courses and programs and life coaches that sell you gimmicks and tactics, and it's all bullshit. It is. It's bullshit. I've been there, done that. And step into my world and experience a supernatural shift in 90 minutes, where I will recalibrate your nervous system, and you will leave that session showing up inside of your life, love, and leadership in a whole new way, where life will reorient and reorganize itself around you, because the signal that you emanate is coming from a new frequency. And so if you want to experience a frequency shift, an energetic shift, a supernatural shift, then reach out and I'll send you the link so you can book that. And after that, you decide, yes, this is my woman, this is the type of work I'm here for, then I will allow you to apply the investment from the 90-minute intensive over into the Supernatural Woman Inner Circle. And that's where we can begin to deepen this self-mastery work together. And so I hope this served you well. And we will continue to have these conversations around being an overachiever leader in the public eye and navigating it with grace, with maturity, and with wisdom. Until next time, have a beautiful day, powerful soul. Take care now.